Logic blocks are helpful tools that can be configured to perform logical operations within the Nextworld platform. In this video, we demonstrate how to set up a fetch table lookup record logic block. If you haven't watched the table lookup video yet, we recommend doing so before continuing with this video. This logic block type is connected to an application and uses a table lookup field from the same table on which the application is built. The logic block is configured to pull specific records from the related table connected to the table lookup field. The advantage of using a logic block with a table lookup field is that a logic block lets you perform an action with the data you fetch. For instance, you could fetch a customer's tax rate, calculate the tax based on the pre-tax total, and automatically add the result to an invoice. In the following example, we create a logic block for a recruitment management application. The logic block will check whether the person entered in the hiring manager field has a status of employee in the directory table. If they do, it automatically pulls their email address from the directory table and fills in the email field. But if their status is anything other than employee, the system will show an error message. We need a few key details before we start to build our logic block. To find this information, we look in the application the logic block will be connected to and the table lookup field's related table. From the recruitment management application, we need the name of the table the application is built on, the data item names for the table lookup field, and the field that the logic block will populate with the email address. From the table lookup field's related table, which is the directory table for this example, we need the table name, the data item names for the primary lookup field, the status field, and the email field. The last piece of information we need is the name of the message data item, which will be used for the error message. Need more information on message data items? Check out the Nextworld help documentation. Let's review the actions required for our fetch table lookup logic block. Fetch table lookup record. First, we'll set up a fetch action that identifies the table the application is built over and the table lookup field. It also creates a data source we will use later in the logic. Conditional. Next, we'll add a condition to check if the fetch table lookup record has a status of employee to know what to do next. Set values. If both conditions are true, a value will be entered into a specified field. Interrupt with error. If either or both conditions we set are false, the logic block will trigger an error message. Set values. If the hiring manager field in the application is blank, no value will be entered into the email field. We've navigated to the general configuration page of the logic block builder. Let's get started by giving our logic block a name. We type the name into the name field and make a note of it. You'll need it later. Open the logic block type menu and choose transaction. Now fill in the rest of the required fields. Since we're attaching this logic block to an application, enter the name of the table that the application is built on into the table name field. Select Save and Stay, and open the logic block builder page. This is where we configure the logic block. The first step is to identify the application's table lookup field. Start by going to the Actions panel and typing Fetch into the action name field. From the list of options, drag Fetch Table Lookup Record onto the logic block panel. Now let's configure the action using the Properties panel. Under Fetch Table Lookup Record Values, find the Table field and select the table name you entered on the Logic Block General Configuration page. Open the Field menu and pick the Hiring Manager field. This is the table lookup field from the Recruitment Manager application and will serve as the reference field for the logic block. In the Name field, enter a name for this data source. This data source is used in later actions to reference the fetched records. The next step is to configure the conditional action. A conditional is a statement that controls decision-making. In this example, when data is entered into the Hiring Manager field, the conditional checks whether the contact role in the directory table is not empty, and the contact role field in the application is set to employee. If both conditions are met, the condition is true. Go back to the Actions panel, type Conditional, and drag the conditional action into the Data Found block on the Logic Block panel. The Properties panel is where we enter the parameters for the conditional. Select Add Expression twice. Scroll down a little. Use the Options menu to select AND. In the first expression, set the type to field. In Table, select the data source we created when configuring the fetch action. And for field, choose Contact Role. This is the field in the directory table that this logic block will fetch data from. Use the Options menu to set the condition to is not empty. We scroll down a bit again. In the second expression, set type to field. Choose the same data source for table. In field, select Contact Role. Set the condition to Contains. For type, select Constant. Since the contact role field in the directory table is a list lookup field, the constant menu lists the values included on that list. Select Employee. This configuration tells the application that if there is data in the contact role field, and that role is employee, the condition is true. The next action will tell the application to enter the hiring manager's email address into the application's email address field when their status is employee in the directory table. In the Actions panel, type Set, then drag Set Values to the True block. In the Properties panel, click Add Assignment. In the To section, we enter the details of the field, which will be populated with the set value. Use the Type menu to select Field. In the Table field, select the name of the application's table. Then select the field that should be populated. For this example, we select Email Address. Open the Actions menu and select Set. Use the Type menu to select Field. For Table, select the data source we created earlier. Then, choose the field from the related table that contains the email address. That covers the true condition. Now let's configure what happens if the condition is not met and the statement is false. The next step is to add an action to tell the application to display an error message when the name entered into the Hiring Manager field does not have a status of employee in the directory table. In the Actions field, enter a wildcard and error. Then drag Interrupt with Error to the False block on the Logic Block panel. In the Properties panel, Select the message data item name. This is the error message users will see when this condition applies. Set the message type to pop-up notification. Under error source, enter the application table name and use the field menu to select the Hiring Manager field. We have completed the configuration of what happens when data is entered into the Hiring Manager field. The last step is to configure the application to clear the email field when data in the Hiring Manager field is deleted. Enter Set into the Action Name field and drag the Set Values action into the No Data block. In the Properties panel, click Add Assignment. In the To section, set Type to Field. Set the table to the application table name. Set field to email address. And set the action to Clear. We've configured all the actions required for this logic block. Select Save and Stay. Now that the logic block is configured, we need to attach it to the application. Navigate to the application. In the Properties panel, select the Wide View button. Make sure the application name is selected. Then select Actions. Locate Event Actions and select Add. Open the Event menu and select Field Value Changed. This means the logic block will run anytime a user changes the value in the Hiring Manager field. In the field name, enter the name of the field that will trigger the logic block. For action, enter the name of the logic block we just created. Select Save and Stay. And since we made changes to the app, select Generate. Let's run a test on the logic block. Launch the app using the Row Action menu and select Create. First, we test what happens if the conditions we set are false. We enter the name of someone whose contact role is not listed as employee in the directory table. Notice that an error message appears and the email address field remains blank. Now let's test what happens if the conditions we set are true. We enter the name of someone who does have the employee contact role in the directory table. Notice their email address appears automatically. We've successfully created a fetch table lookup logic block. This is just one way to use fetch logic blocks within the Nextworld platform. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. To learn more about this topic, please refer to Nextworld Help.